Welcome! In this tutorial, we'll create a ball bouncing animation in Unreal Engine 5.5 using the coolest new feature, Collision in Motion Design. We'll break it down into 3 parts. First, modeling the base scene. Second, setting up the bouncing balls. And finally, adding materials and details to make it pop. Let's dive in. So I'll go ahead and hit File to create a new level. Go ahead and choose Basic and then hit Create. And now we can go ahead and move into modeling mode. And if you don't see modeling or motion design mode, make sure your plugins for them are enabled. Once in modeling mode under Create, go ahead and add some stairs to the scene. And we can hit F to focus in on them. I'm going to increase the number of steps to 25. And I'm going to make their width 1,000, their height 100, and the step depth 250. This way they have a lot of surface area for the balls to bounce on. Then we can go ahead and hit accept. And I want to add some bars here just to add some visual interest. So I'm going to create a box. And let's go ahead and make the width 20, the depth 20, and then we can shoot up the height here. Then hit accept. And then go ahead and select the bar and hit R, and let's scale it on the Z-axis even more. And then we can go to X-form here and hit pattern. And now we can have a row of the bars. I'm going to go ahead and increase the extent to 10,000. And let's go ahead and increase the count to 100. Want it to be a little bit more. Let's try 120. 125. Then go ahead and hit accept. And now let's go ahead and push this back a bit. And I'm leaving it a little extra just because I might scale things a little bit more later. But let's go ahead and make sure to delete the box that we started with. And now in Create, let's add another box for the wall back here. I'm going to go ahead and increase the depth there. Hit accept, and now let's scale this. Nice, and then we can hit E to locate our rotator, then hold down Alt and rotate on the Z-axis to make the back wall. Nice. Now I'm going to delete this floor plane and just add a plane here. So use this drop down menu and under Shapes, select Plane. Let's give this a scale of 1,000 and zero it out. And now we're ready to start making our camera. So use this drop down and add level sequencer. Go to the sequencer folder and I'll call this SQ_ball_bounce. And now with this button here, go ahead and choose Create Camera here, Syn Camera Actor, and let's drag and drop this into the scene. I'm going to increase the focal length of the camera to 50 to create a more cinematic look. And this is another good time to click the perspective button and change it from default viewport to cinematic viewport. That will give us this button here, and we can turn on the grid 3x3, which gives us a nice rule of thirds grid, and so I can frame the camera better. I'm going to go ahead and make the stairs a little bit bigger, just because that's how I had them in my last scene. Let's move these bars so they're more in the middle of this first grid area. And I'm happy with this, so I'm going to go ahead and hit and key my camera. That way if I move around, I can just use my timeline and get back to where I need to be. Awesome, so now let's go out of default viewport and move into motion design mode and start working with these bouncing balls. So I'm going to go ahead and go to actors within motion design and hit cloner actor and add one to our scene. Let's go ahead and select the cloner and zero it out. Then we can raise it up here. And I'm going to hit F to focus on it. Now I don't want cubes, I want spheres. So use this drop down arrow and select shapes and then sphere. And I want the spheres to have multiple colors. So I'm going to go ahead and duplicate the sphere 6 times to create that variety for the future. Now select all the spheres and make sure their mobility is set to movable. That will allow you to drag them into the cloner. And now we can delete the default cube. Awesome, so now in cloner, let's change the layout here. For count Z, let's make that 1. And for count Y, we can make that 4. And for X, let's go ahead and make this 5. And let's increase the spacing here. Let's make this 500 and we'll make this 400. And now we can go down a little bit more and let's enable range. Let's go ahead and make the scale max 4. And we can go ahead and raise this up. And nice. Now let's go ahead and find the effector here and hit create linked effector. And now you can see the effector is just this sphere here that's blue, and I want it to affect the whole cloner all the time. So under shape here, change the shape from sphere to unbound, and this is in the effector, by the way. Nice, and now check on forces enabled and check on gravity force enabled. Now the balls are falling, which is great. I'm going to increase this to -1200. And now let's head back to our cloner. And under spawn here, emissive mode, change this from once to infinite. And now every 1 second, balls will spawn. Changing this will change that interval. So if we make this 0.1, we're getting a lot of balls spawning. I'm going to leave this at 1 for now. And let's go ahead and turn on surface collision. And now we see the balls are bouncing, as well as particle collision enabled. This is nice. And I see the balls are really hitting each other, so I'm going to go ahead and make this 2. And nice, let's take a look at this in our camera. That's looking good. I'm going to go ahead and make them go up a little bit more. And I'll make this 2.5, just to give them a little bit more space. And I'll maybe change the count X to 4 as well. Nice, now let's go back to our camera, and we are ready to start adding materials. So let's push this down a little bit and open up our content browser. I'm going to right click to create a new material, and let's call this M_balls. Double click to open it and hit 3 so that we can add a color node. Let's plug this into the base color. Now I'm going to want to make a material instance and change the colors. So right click on this to convert it to a parameter. Let's call this color. And let's give this a blue color. Now I want this to be a little bit emissive, but not too much. If I were to just plug this in, I wouldn't have much control. So I'm going to hold down an M to create a multiply node and plug this into A and the output into emissive. And I'm going to go ahead and give this a value of 0.2. Now I'll be able to control the emissiveness a bit better individually. So let's go ahead and make the specular 1 and the roughness 0, since I want my balls to be very shiny. Now we can go ahead and hit apply. And let me rename this since I had my caps on. And now we can right click and create a material instance there. And I'm just going to add a 1 to it. And since there's 6 spheres, I'm going to make 6 total materials. So let's go ahead and duplicate the instances. And now we have 6 materials here. And one thing I forgot to do, if I were to just add this to the sphere right now, it wouldn't work. And that's because we're getting this error where it's missing Niagara usage. So we need to go to our material, make sure this is selected, and then scroll down until you see Use with Niagara Mesh Particles. Check this on and hit apply, and now our materials should work. So if I add this here, we see that the material is taking effect, which is great. And so now let's go ahead and add some variety to this. Since we added the parameter, we can check that on. And let's go ahead and give this a lighter blue value. And I'm going to increase the value here, which will make it glow even more. I'm going to give this a value of 10 and hit OK. And let's go ahead and give this to this ball. And since these are emissive materials, I'm going to delete the lighting, so now we can see the glow better. And once I add the post-processing volume, we'll see the bloom even more, which is quite nice. For now, I'll finish setting up these materials. I'm going to give this one a yellowy orange and give it a value of 5. And this one, check on, I'll give this one a more greener color. One here, check on. Give this a value of 2. And one more. I think we could use another lighter blue here. And I'll give this a value of 4. Now we got a mixture of colors and amount of glowness, which is quite nice. I'll go ahead and add this color to the base of the floor. Now we got a reflective floor that's also emitting materials. For the stairs, I want them to be a bit more, I want the material to look a little different from the balls. So I'm gonna go ahead and copy the main material, Control C, Control V, and let's rename this M_stair. I'm gonna go ahead and double click this. I'm gonna give this a pinkish purple bright color. I'll decrease the emissiveness to 0.1. And I'm gonna make this a bit metallic. I'm gonna make it 0.8. And I'm gonna make the specular 0.2 as well as the roughness. Then go ahead and hit apply. And let's drag this onto the stairs. Nice. I'll also drag this onto the bars over here. And I'll drag this yellow back there. And now we're getting something closer to what we started with. Let me go ahead and add a post-processing volume. So using this drop-down, type in post. And then under volumes, select post-processing volume. Go ahead and type in unbound and be sure that infinite extend is checked. This will ensure that the post-processing, what you do, will affect the whole scene and not just what's in this box here. So go ahead and exit out of the unbound. And then under boom, go ahead and check on intensity and let's give this a value of 3.5. Nice. Now this is a bit too much, so under exposure here, check on exposure compensation and let's make this 0. I will also, I accidentally scrolled down while I was on that. Let's also make the min and max EV 100 or 0. And nice, we can just add a little bit more here. Under lumen global illumination, under lumen scene lighting quality, let's increase this to 4. Lumen scene detail, let's make this 2. Lumen reflection, let's give this a 4. And let's also increase the scene details. So under local exposure, go ahead and turn on detail strength. And let's make this 1.5. And that adds just a little subtle more details to the scene. So hold G to hide the icons. And now let's go ahead and this is a little bit showing there. So let's extend this. Just the finishing details now. Oh, let's push this wall back. I'll also give this wall this material. Nice. And let's go ahead and extend this up a little bit as well. Let's make this wall a little bit taller. And boom, we have a bouncing ball scene. I hope you found this tutorial helpful. If you did, please like and subscribe. That would help me out a lot. Thank you so much for watching, and I hope you have a wonderful day.